going to be a bumpy night.
What's going on, guys? This is the Laugh Bunker podcast, episode number 6, I believe. My name is Josh. Paul, good to see you. Everything going
Hi, sir.
good?
How are you? How's the family?
My family's going good. Quarantine is over. I can breathe. I can go out there and then just breathe on everybody, and it's just all feeling good, even though everything's shutting down again. But
Yeah, it's just, and I have to tell you that because of where I work and I'm out a lot, not a lot of people wearing masks, and the gym opened this week, so I went back to the gym. It's the first time since March. It was very nice. There wasn't a lot of people there. Pretty much everyone was respecting the rules of, distancing, whatever. And I just went there for the power movements. My back had been bothering me for a couple weeks because of a former injury, but heavy leg presses popped it in place. So it's a nice, but you know what? The evolution, I don't see myself ever being at the gym 6 days a week again or whatever. I've been able to incorporate other exercises, and because of my dumbbell regimen and with the hiking, I think especially for training for the hike I want to do, it'll be it's better to. So
you're moving away from the heavy lifting and the constant days of gym, or you're going more lighter, more cardio, more flexibility.
No, I don't believe in going light because I think reps are a waste of time.
Okay.
Because people think you do reps because you're going to get cut, but fitness isn't about look. Fitness is about work capacity, and if you want to look cut, you just quit drinking beer and eating Doritos, man, and eating pounds of ice cream. Like we had ice cream yesterday because it was my wife's birthday. I don't allow it in the house. I can't stop. I'm an addict, and I'm like,
same.
And I just. So we went for a nice hike. It was my wife's birthday.
That's good.
And anyway, so we had a nice time.
Because the holidays are coming up, so it's kind of good that they're kind of shutting things down for right now, so it could keep people indoors and just I'm not really doing anything. Planning anything.
When everyone was inside for those 6-7 weeks, look what happened. It really dived, and though I did not believe this Corona thing, I cannot believe. I thought it was just BS totally. Yeah. But obviously it's not, especially for it to come back. And I saw that in Houston, they don't have any ICU beds at all. It's filled. And it's all young people down there now. And the same thing in Florida, who are all on the beaches, and we're not going to do this. So anyway, everyone should be safe. And it's not for you or me. It's for the people who can't take it. Our parents. Family members or friends that have a genetic problem, lung problem. So, anyway, had a nice hike. We had a good day yesterday. I got up early today, hiked about 8 miles before 10, got home, worked out again. So it was very nice. It was nice up there. Let me ask you a question real quick. Do you ever, this doesn't happen a lot. I mean, I go all over the place, and I understand, but sometimes I forgot I had high anxiety because I'm talking about this guy and I couldn't remember the words. Well, then it created this. Have you ever had an interview with your MMA program where you just have a brain death and you get lost for a second?
It's happened.
Like you forget names or you're trying to go somewhere and you can't come up with the word?
Yeah. You know what? It's happened before, yes. Yeah. Where I blank out on a name and I'll have to find some way out of it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I had that happen one time on stage in Chicago.
Okay.
I just lost the line, and luckily it was a Sam Shepard play. My wife was directing. It was down the street from Ridley and Clark, small crowd, and I came out, and man, I lost it.
Did you improvise at all? Did you?
No, the guy helped me.
Okay.
Noah, who was one of the characters, there was 3 people on stage at this time. He made it work. He helped me get back into it, and then I snapped in and but for that brief moment, let me tell you what. You want to talk about fear? That's the most. Other than the guy wanting to kill me the other week, that's right there because you're like, everyone's looking at you.
Everyone's looking at you. Yeah,
right?
you're doing you're performing in front of people.
My God,
It's
it was like
nerve-wracking.
I literally almost heart attack.
Yeah.
Also during that show, one of my wife's friends who did all the art direction, one of my props was tea, right? And it was supposed to look like whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, they filled it up with whiskey. So when I went to clear my mouth,
Did you spit it back out?
No, I swallowed maybe 3 or 4 shots. So my wife said that was the best performance ever. It was very loose at the end.
Yeah.
But anyway, when we were talking about Perry last week, I looked at something and saw something on the light, and I totally spaced out. Anyway, Perry I met in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Perry was from the Sioux Nation, from Standing Rock in South Dakota.
Yeah.
His parents were alcoholics and drove off the road and were killed, and he was in the back seat, was put into a white kind of Christian missionary school where he was adopted by some white parents over in the suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
He ended up coming to where me and my wife lived, kind of moving in at the church and working on the crew, and that's how I became friends with him. He obviously was there because his parents had wanted him to. He was a party animal guy, so that's why.
Yeah.
And his parents were, and I don't know if they were very cool people, but they're more conservative, and I want to use the word cookie cutter Christian, if that makes sense. I don't mean that in a negative way.
And I can even see that they were probably even more so on him because of what happened to his parents.
Yeah. But we are the ones that had the discussion, and that's why about the mascot, and he was totally correct. And that's what we said last week, that he said, I said, I don't know how he feels. So when you asked me, okay, I know what you're talking about, the people going in the restaurants and protesting.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, I don't walk in those shoes.
Yeah.
And we talked about that last week with the Native Americans saying about how can you know a man if you haven't walked a mile in his moccasins? You know what? I don't know what it is, and I go back to, it's about being kind, and if you're kind, people listen. So. Yeah. That's all I have to say about it. I'm not involved, but I can't make a comment on something that I have no experience.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, they all have their own experience.
But that's it,
Every culture or every ethnicity has their own experience and their own issues with how things are going in this country or whatever. But
everywhere you
respect, inclusion, it's all looking, everybody wants the same thing. They want they want respect, love,
feel cool. Oh yeah, everyone wants to feel that they're cool, and accepted and be loved. But anyway, neither here nor there. Other than that, so what have you? Tell me a couple things you've watched. I know we're going to talk about some horror stuff, but tell me what.
So what I've been watching? I've been watching. I think I finished the Watchmen series. I was watching that. Did you get a chance to get around to watching it?
I did not, but I did ask a couple people at work about it, to be honest with you. So I will. I just it was my wife's birthday week and just busy. Truth is, I didn't. Okay, because we're talking horror.
Yeah.
Last night I Googled best horror picture on Netflix.
Okay.
And it said Sinister with Ethan Hawke.
With Ethan Hawke, yeah.
He's the writer, and he moves in. You know what? I'm going to tell you what. I just started going, oh, he's a writer. Oh, yeah, they got his autograph. Oh, he said, as soon as the guy came up with the dirty look, Fred Thompson, I said, oh, he's pissed off the police. I nailed it. It was just too heavily written.
Yeah.
And now that we're talking about horror, we'll just jump in there.
Yeah.
So there's 2 elements of horror: supernatural, thriller, slasher. That's pretty much all. So for you as a person, what would be your number one horror movie? What's your? a go-to horror movie sounds pretty sadistic in itself. I don't, when I want to be freaked out, I put this on because I want to, I don't want to feel bad, but.
Or the genre, like, because horror is like, it's
do you watch horror movies?
It's not my genre that I like to go to often, no.
My wife and daughter would lean that way.
Okay, yeah, no, and most of my family here at the house will lean that way towards horror. I'm not necessarily a horror person. I do like certain movies. I do like the type of horror that feels a little bit more based in
reality, is in
Texas. Like if I'm on a road trip, yeah. If I like, you could even take one that's a little bit more far out there, like the Purge series. Where it's like one day a year, you just like the whole city shuts down, and then everybody can pretty much commit any crime they want.
The last 3 months in America.
Yes, yeah. I like the Purge series, the Strangers, the series The Strangers, where like the first one had Liv Tyler in it, and then they're in that house, and then there's these people
right?
Yeah. So I can imagine that, living out in the wooded area, and then all of a sudden you hear a knock on the door, and then people start messing with you, and then there's the Purge series, Stranger series. You could do Hostel. You could do Texas Chainsaw, even though it's a little bit more far out there, and you have Leatherface as like a iconic character. It is pretty spooky to go out on the dirt road and end up in
Silence of the Lamb. You're talking about serial killer. So the fear for you is, other than being made into a dress, is physical death. So that to you, you find to be the end and the massive fear.
You can imagine yourself being in that sort of situation. Not necessarily like that, but you can end up being in that scenario at some point. Like your car breaks down in some, middle of the country state on a dirt road, and you end up there, and the only people around you is this one house, and lo and behold, that one house ends up being just these psychopathic people that want to wear your face. Yeah, that's we all kind of
So, but your greatest fear is dying. Then, would you say that would be that for you?
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Those are the type of movies I like. The scary ghost stuff and like certain things. I find it entertaining, but I'm not necessarily scared or spooked out in any type of way, or it doesn't resonate with me too much after I see the film. So yeah.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Well, let me ask you this question first. Have you, thinking back over your life, have you had any moments though that you can't add up? Because I see you're leaning away from the supernatural, the spiritual.
Have I had any spiritual type of like?
So have you had any? Is there any moments of fear in your life? Have you ever been somewhere and felt that you had fear? There was a weird vibe. I do room checks at the hotel. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were doing water tests.
Yeah.
And so I go into all these rooms, and I'll go into 30 or 40 rooms on a floor.
Yeah.
Throw on the light, and the first time I did it on the 5th floor, I went down and I asked the front desk manager, who'd been down there 18 years, I said, has anyone ever died on those floors? And he said, not that I know of. Why? I said, a couple rooms that I went in, this gave me a weird vibe. Like, and I don't like the dark. That's why I don't do.
I don't like the dark either. Yeah.
I don't, because in the dark, that's where they're at, and you can't see them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you how it all works. See, how it works is the devil runs everything.
Uh-huh.
And growing up, he ran everything from my closet.
And under your bed. Yeah.
Yes. Well, no, he didn't. He said because it was too dusty, it was bad on his allergies. He'd rather stand and look out because, that's just what he does. Yeah. But no, so for me, I lean. Okay, I made a list here. Okay. I went to Rollins. I looked up Rolling Stone. Well, first of all, I looked for a list of horror films.
Okay,
Okay,
where do you lean though? Are you lean more physical
I
harm
don't
or
fear
supernatural?
okay, I lean as a Christian person, then I believe in the supernatural.
Okay,
Obviously, otherwise I
okay.
don't believe in the Bible. So obviously, I believe the devil does exist.
And have you had any supernatural like events working in a hotel, which seems to be a perfect place for that kind of stuff to happen?
Well, I grew up in a obviously in a Catholic church, which is
Yeah.
lends more toward
Oh yeah, you got the
know,
Exorcist and everything.
Exorcist exactly. So let me just read this list first, and then I'll go to my thoughts on it. Okay.
Okay.
So I googled top 10 horror films. I'm not a horror guy. Now a lot of these films that were in the top 10, I have seen,
Yeah.
and let's see if you have seen them. And there's a couple others that don't. And I'm going to ask you to pick one film that made you the most uncomfortable. So think of that on the side.
Okay.
So AFI has not horror, they have a list of thrills, 100 thrill films. In the top three was The Exorcist, Psycho, and Night of the Living Dead. So
Yeah.
you could see that they were leaning, but they call it thrill. So Rolling Stone put out a thing and said, hey, what are, ask their readers, give us a list. So number 10 was Poltergeist by Spielberg.
I like Poltergeist. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. And with the original with
Even even the remake wasn't that bad.
the little lady was really creeped out. Remember the
Yeah.
lady? So that was in '82. Spielberg also had E.T. in '82. That's quite an accomplishment. Number 9 was The Thing by John Carpenter.
Which I love that movie. Yeah.
John Carpenter.
There was even a video game on that one. They even did a video game for Xbox
Really?
at one time. And yeah, that was one of my first exposures to it, early 2000s.
Well, yeah. That's nice. So you have Poltergeist in '82. You've got The Thing in '82. It opened 2 weeks after E.T. and the same day as Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I mean, talk about these are iconic films.
Iconic films, yeah.
Number 8 was Night of the Living Dead by George Romero in 1968.
Okay.
I think every zombie movie has pretty much come from that. Night of the Living Dead. Then there was one, The Haunting, which I don't know any about. It was originally a 1963 movie. It was remade in '99 with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That was okay. That was all right.
You saw that?
Yeah, okay. I saw that one.
Now, number 8 in 1979 was Alien by Ridley Scott, which, when he made that movie, he saw the monster and he said, we can't show this thing. This ain't going to work. And if you think about it, in all the movies that have to do with the monsters, once you see it, like even Arnold's Predator, once you see it, it removes because we don't buy it. One of my favorite horror movies, before I go back to the list, or the one that creeped me out the most, was Signs by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw that movie, was before I moved to California. I was helping a friend build a house in Illinois on a lake. Well, really extending a trailer out and putting a bathroom in a big deck. Yeah. But it was surrounded by cornfields, which that movie. And so I was actually creeped out. And that movie is awesome, but when we see the alien at the end and it killed me. But that scene where he's watching the TV set and it's the kid's birthday party and they think, man,
it's holding the kid and
exactly. That's just stinking. Or so anyway. I like that, but so
that's a great movie.
Thought Alien. When you have a creature, it's almost supernatural over the serial killer thriller because it leans to the imagination. Correct?
Yeah. So, and then is it thriller? Is it horror? Is it sci-fi? Is it because that's one of those movies that leans you can put it in all three of those categories.
When Cameron took it over, it became more thriller.
Yeah.
Because then it got on testosterone and it just, became his lead. But the original one, I remember when the trailer came out on the TV. I was in high school. And it just had this like flickering and it said, in space, no one can hear you scream. That was the tag.
Yeah, that's a great tag.
So us to go, it was a creeped out movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was so isolated and they kept the camera so tight that you couldn't see anything around you. And he's a phenomenal. I mean, Ridley Scott he's a
great.
man.
Yeah, he's a man. Yeah. I love Ridley Scott. Yeah.
Number 5 was the movie you talked about, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974.
Mm-hmm.
That movie had an $80,000 budget and grossed $30 million box office 74. How much is that today? Number 4 is Halloween in 1978. So The Thing came afterwards. Carpenter did both, and Halloween has had 13 sequels.
Yeah.
So how much money has Carpenter done that? Number 3 is Psycho. The famous movie with Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Where the lead was killed at the beginning of the movie. It's the scenes are great. I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. So that movie was $800,000 in budget, grossed $50 million in 1960.
Dang. That's it.
Today, not everyone's putting out a million movies.
Yeah.
Number 2 is The Shining. That's with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. That's on TV a lot too. That's it.
So have you seen it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that is a Stanley Kubrick. Now, Stanley Kubrick is an older director who did 2001, did Spartacus back in the 60s, and he did my favorite Vietnam movie, Full Metal Jacket, with Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like phenomenal. So he did The Shining. Now, here's the deal. It's from a Stephen King novel.
Mm-hmm.
This will go into what I'm talking about. Stephen King stayed at the Stanley Hotel. Okay?
Yeah.
And I believe it was either room 217 or 237. And he felt weird, wrote the story. I've drinking at that bar that was the influence for the movie.
Yeah.
And I did like really expensive shots. And so anyway, I talked to some people because I knew this is outside of Estes Park, right by the Rocky Mountain National Park. And so I went and talked to this lady about ghosts or whatever. And she says, well, the truth is you go ahead and you go into these rooms. And she mentioned a couple rooms. One is the room that I sent you.
Yeah.
And she goes, you take pictures, tons of pictures, and then look at them later. So I mean, I don't know. I just took tons of pictures, went in afterwards. In one of the pictures I sent you, there's this weird image that wasn't there when I took the picture, and you'll see it when you look at the picture.
Yeah.
But if you look at the picture, it looks like Mr. Stanley. If you Google Mr. Stanley in the suit, so that was kind of a weird thing. You know, it didn't creep me out, but I also sent you a picture.
Well, I'll see if I could I'll put these pictures up.
See it. So the one was the Stanley.
Yeah.
Then the stairs going up to my second floor.
Mm-hmm.
A girl's face appeared. And we could not scrub it, vacuum it. And my wife will verify that.
Yeah.
And the day that my wife and daughter flew to Denver for my daughter to go to college, or university, it disappeared. That's a true story. And I sent you that picture too.
Yeah.
So I have one more story on this thing, but the number 1 movie is considered The Exorcist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now The Exorcist cost $12 million to make, and its box office is $440 million. And it's by William Friedkin, who won Best Picture and Best Director for French Connection a couple years earlier with Gene Hackman playing Popeye Doyle and the heroin trade from France.
Yeah. That's a big taken. That's a big for 12 million and then 400.
Now that's adjusted price, and I'm sure over time.
Yeah.
But people were standing in line in the pouring rain to see this movie.
No, I would put that at the top because that and The Shining as influential, iconic horror movie, especially The Exorcist. I mean, I remember seeing The Exorcist for the first time, and that was it still holds up today because it's been on. It's one of my brother-in-law's favorite movies, so it's like it was on at the house all the time. So I remember even just watching it recently, and it still holds up.
So we talked about, you asked me thriller or spiritual. I'm going to go spiritual because I feel that's the biggest fear for me,
Yeah.
going devil. And I did see the movie, to be honest with you. I didn't see it when I was young, but I did see it later after I had become a Christian. And I did see it. It didn't freak me out as much, but there was a couple scenes where she turns her head and it
Yeah.
looks like an X-ray. She's on the bed. It really flipped me out.
Yeah.
And when we
even
moved,
some of those, even some of the cursing and the language in that at the time that it came out, it's for them
well, yeah,
to,
especially it was very sexually based with some of it also. And
yeah,
she was only, Linda Blair was only 16
16,
when
yeah,
that was
and
shot.
for them to be able to, I guess, take those risks at that time with that sort of language. Not that it's more common now. I don't know. It just seems like it would be something that you would see more in like the modern era as opposed to the time that the film was made. For them to be able to just openly say things like that and take those chances in a film, I don't know.
Well, I mean, when you're dealing, of course, if in the retrоспect, I mean, if you're
Yeah,
dealing with the evil of evil, then it obviously would be going that way. It
you would have
wouldn't
to
be
go
a
full
good
out.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And but it is influential. So for me, I have to. I don't really, even after my incident with the gentleman the other week, and and I really thought I would have to fight for my life in
yeah,
this instance, and it was very interesting, but it was no fear.
yeah,
And it was weird. I don't fear even someone with a knife. If you're close enough, yes, you might kill
yeah,
me, but I don't fear death because I believe that there's an afterlife, and that's just my thing. So years ago, my wife and I stayed at. We have a friend. His name's Spike. I sent you some of his cartoons. He did the
yeah.
logo of
You
the
did,
Laugh Bunker. Yeah.
who did our logo? Yes, exactly.
So years ago, he has a twin sister, and his sister was shot by a shotgun in Georgia. Never taken care of, and I never have lost a child.
The incident wasn't solved. It
Never.
wasn't like
And I think
okay.
that's the worst thing. So
Yeah,
his parents never recovered. And it's funny. I've known a couple people who have lost a child, and it's
yeah,
just something that you can't. It's like we were talking earlier about walking in someone's shoes. We don't know. In fact, even when I worked for Mr. Travolta, him talking about his son and the sadness and it just
yeah,
no one recovers.
yeah,
So
and people handle it their own way, and
yeah,
most,
people handle it with
I would say,
substances. People handle it with anger. People handle it with just keeping to themselves.
yeah, yeah, and I've known several people over the last few years that's happened to, and yeah, it's yeah, people handle it differently. It's like some say to keep themselves, distance themselves from people. They just don't like to socialize anymore. Um, they may have go on to accomplish certain things, but they still have that.
No, you can never. Once
No.
you're a parent, you're a parent forever. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and then
And
others choose to just. I've known others to kind of go the other route and to kind of just not even question really what happened, because like there was a situation almost like your friend Spike's, where they kind of just accepted it, didn't really question why certain things happened. Um, almost it yeah, and just kind of carried on and just kind of they're still dealing with their own way, and but it's weird how people
it's
yeah,
they were very influential in our lives.
yeah,
After we got married, my wife and I, they gave us a Volkswagen van. You saw the picture. So we
hmm,
spent our honeymoon up in the mountains. I had never been in the mountains. So that's really what changed my whole direction to loving the mountains. And we developed a relationship for a couple years after Kristen had been murdered. They said, "Hey, why don't you come Hank, we're going to go out of town. Why don't you house sit? And their house was right up on the right by CU Boulder. It was just killer. So we went out.
Yeah.
And one night, and I've told the story a couple of times. Tim has heard the story too. I was in the house, and so we were in this bedroom, the older brother's bedroom, and the sister's bedroom was here. So this was the hallway to go to the restroom. So I got up to go to the restroom, and as I turned around to her room, there was something there.
Yeah.
And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I told my wife it was like I saw a feeling. I know that makes no sense, but there was no form, but there was something. And there was light from the windows were open, and so there was light coming in from the street. And it wasn't from outside, it was inside. So I went to the bathroom, man. I'm like so freaked out. I stayed in the bathroom. I didn't even want to come out. I mean, no, I'm not kidding you. It freaks me out on a major level.
Yeah.
So I eventually left the bathroom, went back to bed. I didn't tell my wife. But I went in the next day looking, there was nothing there. There was no trees in front of the window. I didn't know, whatever. But their dog, who we were also watching, would follow me into every room and would never go into that room. Now, was the dog trained not to go in the room years ago? Could have been. I don't know. But it was just those things.
Yeah.
So it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And
Yeah,
I think growing
up
Roman Catholic, it's the spiritualness of it
does.
is very thick, and it is all, spiritual. And so anyway, I would have to say for me, fear would lean more in those kind of movies that would be more toward the spiritual than the slasher. And there was another movie, Jaws by Spielberg. That, in a way, is almost like a precursor. It's just a monster movie, in a way. It's almost a horror movie. When you think, it's really built up like a horror movie, even when they're on the boat themselves.
I think for I would say my generation and up, it kind of, I would say, instilled a fear of going out into the ocean for a lot of people.
Can you swim?
Yeah, I can swim.
Right. Yeah, but you don't like the water.
No, especially when I can't see what's underneath me. I'll go out on a boat.
Well, let me tell you what.
On jet skis.
There's a lot of we grew up water skiing and whatever, but there's a lot of sharks.
That's what I don't want to go into the water for. Yeah.
One time
I don't understand how people swim out far out. Like I have a friend that does that.
The sharks don't get you out there. They get you in. They say most shark attacks are under 4 feet of water.
I can believe that. Yeah.
We went to Cocoa Beach one time for vacation because I was doing something in Orlando. My family came down, and it was really cool. We stayed on a condo in Cocoa Beach. We saw a shuttle launch.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, we were 5-6 miles away. It wasn't like we were there, but it was pretty spectacular. Yeah. So one day, at that time, I was doing a lot of triathlon stuff. So I was swimming along the beach. So I was swimming Cocoa Beach, bunch of stuff or whatever. I jump up and someone's running out, and I look down, and there was, 4-foot shark there, maybe right in front of me. So I ran to the lifeguard, like, and he was laughing at me. I said, "What's so funny?" He goes, "Dude, if you had a camera and saw all the sharks that are around you, no one would go in the freaking water." And you've seen those pictures from Florida overhead over the years of your life. So, they don't want to eat me because I'm old. I'm probably too stringy. The meat is tough. For you, you're probably a goner. Don't put your kid in there either.
Yeah.
No. So, okay, you go slasher. So, give me the number.
I go slasher. I go
thriller.
I go thriller. I go situational movies to where if you're caught in that kind of situation, how would you figure your way out?
Give me one. I'm going to give you one. My favorite. What's yours?
And favorite. You know what?
Okay. What creeps you out?
What
creeps you out?
One of my favorite films, and this actually leans more towards supernatural, was The Witch. Have you seen it?
Yes, we were. Yes, I have seen it. It's the one set late 17th century, correct?
Yes, yes. That was
Yeah,
one of my. That was one of
we
my.
watched it. Yes, with the rabbit and the girl. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
that was
Yeah,
one of
that
my
is
most
kind of
recent
okay. But
favorite.
it's in the. It's well.
It
What are you
that's more in the
surrounded by?
supernatural. That's more in the super
What
woods.
are you surrounded by?
Yes.
Where they all live.
Yep. All the
You
monsters.
know, when I was in high school, I lived. I was telling you, I lived by the river, and I lived in this subdivision. But all my friends lived in another subdivision.
Yeah.
But to get to that subdivision, I had to walk up this trail in the woods to a middle school and then cut down the road. But walking up there, the light would be orangish coming down the hill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As long as I didn't turn around, I had it. But if there was one turn around, I'd end up just stinking running through
Yeah.
there because I'd be so freaked out. But if you didn't look, you're okay. But once you look, they know. And if they know, then you're screwed. They're going to hurt you. So
Yeah.
they can smell fear.
Yeah.
Today on the trail, in fact, I was going up, and a couple said a bear blocked the trail and stared at them for about 20, 30 seconds.
Oh, they get that. That would. They're lucky they got out of there alive.
Well,
Because that was
well, these are kind of weak bears, but
Yeah.
so they came down. When I was hiking up, I heard a bunch of rocks. So the bear was going up the gully, and I actually stopped and looked for a little bit. And someone came up before me. He goes, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah, I heard that too."
Yeah.
One time I was there. You just don't want to get between the cub, and I don't know what time of the season it is right now with their mating or whatever. But yeah, you don't want to run into them. So
No.
okay,
That,
so
that
what's
was
your movie again?
my most recent. The most recent one I've seen
Yeah.
so far that I really enjoyed is The Witch. All time favorite. Oof, that's a tough one.
That can be situational to where you are at your life at that time, also. So those do
Yeah.
change with age and
They
different things.
they change. They change. Horror movie favorite. I always liked The Ring. I always thought that was a good one.
Yeah, my wife and daughter that's the Japanese movie.
Yeah, but the American version with Naomi Watts.
Oh no,
Yeah.
the
That's one.
original one had the big tub thing, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, they like that, and they watch a lot, but they did like the Witch. I'd have to say, for me, I'm going to go with Signs from M. Night Shyamalan.
That's a great one.
Only because not like we discussed, not because once you see it, it doesn't get it anymore. But I was living out by I was running through corn in the morning, so it was very.
Yeah.
It's really funny. One thing I really hate are spiders. I mean, spiders freak me out because they
Yeah.
look scary, and I don't like them. And I've seen some big ones, especially down in South America and Mexico.
Yeah.
So my daughter doesn't play pranks or nothing. So we were there the whole time. We watched Signs. We had a good time. And I was driving her up to O'Hare so that she could
Mhm.
fly out here with my sister while I went back and finished the house. So out of the blue, she found this big plastic spider. And she put it on the steering wheel. So I got in, not looking, and I looked, and she's probably still laughing. But I screamed out loud, and it probably was a little feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it freaked me out, and this doesn't do things like that. But no, so talking with horror, I don't really watch a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't watch a lot of comedy either. I watch more dramatic stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Documentary. I have been watching more of more outdoor and national park documentaries this week. So I did finish Ken Burns' program. So going back to did I watch nothing? I did watch that, especially since we are going to Yosemite. We got our passes.
That's good.
And I'm going to do, instead of doing the Half Dome, I'm going to go back and do that in the fall. I'm going to do this hike. It's about 15 miles, but you hike to the top of El Capitan on the back. And I think to stand on top of there and see climbers coming up would be. So that's what I'm going to do. It's 15 miles round trip, 5,600 feet elevation.
And since that's what you've been watching mainly for the past week or so.
Yeah, I just kind of get motivated and talk with you. I got to talk with my friend about getting this permit to do this hike, and then I'll know. Yeah. If I can't get the permit, then I'll probably do a couple. I want to go to Palm Springs and go up that mountain.
Oh yeah, yeah,
San Antonio.
yeah. I
That's a
love Palm
20
Springs. But I love
mile.
Palm Springs for a different reason though. I love Palm Springs because it's like it's relaxing. It's
I've never been
really.
there.
You never been to Palm Springs?
No, I've been to Joshua Tree a few times, but I've
Yeah.
never been to Palm Springs.
But Palm Springs, like the town and to go
Yeah,
eat
never
and
been
to
there.
go have a drink. No, no. Oh man, you got to go. It's got a very old Hollywood vibe.
Yeah, well, Bob Hope, he's the one that
It's
pretty much got that all going over there, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. It's a big old Hollywood vibe to it. I mean, it's also known as a big gay town. It's a
Really?
big
I didn't
large
know that.
community.
Oh.
Yeah, a large community
When
down
I
there.
think of, like, truth is, because I've never been there, all I think of Palm Springs is golfing for some
Oh,
reason.
really? Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
there's golf courses, a lot of hotels. Um,
what hotel do you stay there when you go?
uh, yeah, I like some of the small boutique hotels. There's one called the Orbit Inn. Each they has like maybe 6 rooms, and there's like a Sinatra room.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
There's yeah, what's it called? The Sammy Davis room. There's like a Rat Pack room. They're all it's kind of like Rat Pack, and they have like I don't know. It's small. It's a small. There's a lot of small.
Have you ever been to Joshua Tree?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
No.
they filmed there was a movie called The Hills Have Eyes. I'm sure you've heard of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that
That's
movie.
where that was filmed. But it's really cool. We have gone
Did you
there.
ever watch the remake?
No.
No, the remake was great. That was honestly that was a. There's very few movies that are actually the remakes are as good or if not better than the originals. This one is like the remake was creepy. That's a good one. The sequel to the remake, not as good, but the
I mean, how many times can you keep coming back from the dead?
yeah,
I just can't. I don't. Like I said, I don't watch many horror
yeah,
movies, and even The Shining. It was what was cool was then going to Stanley
yeah,
and hotel
yeah.
and hearing about it. But no, I
So
don't. I don't. I won't. Because you have to turn off the lights at night,
yeah,
and that's the bummer. And
yeah,
I always have to keep the closet closed now. But
yeah. And I've had supernatural experiences. I think the most the one that stands out the most to me was one of my first hotels. It was in Orange County. It's a DoubleTree hotel. I'm not gonna say which one it exactly is, but it was on the 17th floor. It was late at night. It was me, one of the managers for the front office, and one of my operators, one of the operators there. And I keep in contact with all of them today. The operator, she goes up to deliver, I think, toothpaste and toothbrush to a guest that called down to request, and it was a slow night. So she goes up there, she calls from the elevator phone, like the one that's right outside the elevators on the floor, saying if one of us can go and get her because she's too afraid to come down because she's hearing voices. And we kind of laugh it off. We're like, all right, yeah, we'll go over there. we let like almost 10 minutes go by. It seems like she calls back down again, and she's saying again, could one of you guys come up and get me because I'm hearing voices or something. There's something like up here, and we're like, my manager's all right, go up there and get her. So I'm like, I go up there. I'm going up there. By the time I get to the 17th floor, the doors open. I don't even step outside of the elevator yet, and I hear it already.
What did it say?
It's saying, "Help me." It's a female voice that's just whispering. This is not a movie. It's not a joke. It legitimately happened to me. It's like a whisper in my ear. It's almost like so close in my ear that like like when somebody's like it's like your ear tingles.
Was
Like
it
if somebody's
coming
like
from inside the elevator, or was it coming from the hallway to the elevator?
so as for because I never really I didn't even step out of the elevator.
Okay.
So once the doors opened, I see the operator. Her name's Veronica. I'll just give her name's Veronica. She's standing right there, right in between the elevators, all 4 elevators, right in the middle, and she has her hand to her hips and like her side, like all tight, and she's like teary-eyed, and she's so frozen and so scared that she can't move. and it stops me in my tracks. I even look in between the elevator door to see if there's like a speaker or something like that because it's so in my ear, and it's
Was
just,
she hearing the same thing?
yeah,
Wow.
she was hearing the same thing, and she heard it while she was in the hallways, like walking, and it wasn't like you could tell when it's like from a speaker or like from somewhere outside source or whatever. It was literally like someone was whispering in your ear, "Help me, help me, help me," like repeatedly over and over again. And I asked her, I told her, come in the elevator. I hold it open. I tell her come in, and so she runs over into me, and then as we start to go down, it just immediately kind of just stops, and I don't hear it anymore, and I'm like, and once it stops, I have my arms crossed. I'm like, I ask her like, what was that? And she's like, you heard it too. So when I was hearing it, she didn't. She
Has anyone ever heard that before?
No, that was
Or
the one
afterwards?
time.
How about
No,
afterwards?
no, we even had engineers and all that kind of go up there and check it out a little bit. None of them heard it, and so yeah. And then I asked her like, oh, what was that? Like because like I was shook. So I was like, what was that? And she's like, you heard it too. And I'm like, yeah, like it was saying like help me, and she was like, yeah, it was saying help me. And I was like, and she's like, I heard that it was like following me the whole while I was up there. When she went to the room to deliver the stuff, like she heard it, and she was like, she ran back to the elevators. She's like, it was, I heard it the entire time I was up there, and it was like in my ear. And so that was
Did you do any research on the hotel or anything?
no,
Ask anybody?
no. I had been there 3 years, and I've heard of stories where people committed suicide in the closets, or like people do that. People go to hotels and commit suicide. Um, I've heard of there's one girl that jumped from the top of the roof. She fell, landed on one of the potted plants out there. These big, giant potted plants. She landed on one of those, survived the fall, and this is like a 20 story uh, building.
Wow.
It's huge. So she survived the fall. She luckily, she didn't. She ended up dying because there's no way you can survive something like that. But she survived the fall. She was taken to the hospital, and later died there. And that was probably a year before I got there. And so
maybe.
maybe. And I don't know why. I think I don't. I think I left maybe 6 months after that, and not for that reason, because I ended up getting an internship, but I don't remember ever going back up to that floor. Even like I don't know if it was on purpose or I just subconsciously just kind of avoided that floor. But yeah, I was like, okay, I had a kind of a ghost experience. I wasn't sure if it was a ghost experience or because I'm not necessarily the most religious person or a spiritual person, but it could have been I don't know what to make of it. Was it a ghost? What is it? Was it some type of, if you even want to go scientific, you go some multiverse type of parallel universe, fabrics. I don't know what to make of it. You know what I mean? But I don't think about it often. But it was definitely an experience. It's almost like, okay, I just need a UFO experience now. I think that's
in the room search was that type of situation, but I had massive fear, and I heard nothing. But I understand. Yeah. But I mean, I think there's so many movies that lean to that there's more to say, and of course, being a person of faith, then I would lean. I have that. So, bottom line for me would be spiritual, the devil, and yours would be.
Probably physical, more of a situational type of thing. Wondering how I would get myself out of that type of situation. I think, and not knowing, like the purge situation. How would you handle something like that, or like
you're well armed. I mean, I'd be.
I think more so, who would I lose in between that time? You know what I mean? Like you could care for yourself, but like it would be hard to save other people.
Did you see the horror movie, and I can't think of the name of it, but they made a sequel of it now. It was John Krasinski directed it. Emily Blunt, his wife, was in it.
A
Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Well, once I saw at the end, it took away, but that definitely, that scene is where she has the baby and it's in the room. I thought that was pretty, and one of the top intense scenes of that year.
Or even one of the openers where the young boy gets snatched up in the very beginning of the movie. Yeah, on the bridge because of the, I can imagine being in that situation where you have 3-4 children that you have to care for in this environment, and there you go. There goes one child in an instant. It's like that's that type of situational, thriller horror movie type stuff. That's the kind of stuff that freaks me out. I've been held up at knife point before. I've left a job and then a car pulls up. Like literally, it was me and a coworker leaving late at night, closing up a store. It was a clothing store. Go out to the parking lot. It was at this mall. A greenish Honda pulls up out of nowhere. The speeds right up. 2 guys exit out wearing like old school Jason hockey masks. One has a machete.
What the heck?
Which luckily my friend I got that guy. And then I had the other guy who had like a kind of like a medium sized knife. And that yeah. And then I remember the guy was all like, "Hey, give me your wallet, give me your wallet." And this is how things don't necessarily faze me too much. I told the guy, "I'm not going to give you my wallet." You know what was going through my mind? I don't want to go to the DMV. That's
worse than getting stabbed.
I'd rather get stabbed. I'd rather get stabbed than go to the DMV.
I think anybody would.
So that's what.
Or you want to stab the people working at the DMV. So.
Yeah, and the guy wasn't necessarily the biggest guy, so I felt like, I could probably fight him off and not get hurt too much.
Yeah, I don't myself, like I was saying earlier, I don't worry about that part of it.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was I gave the guy the $1 bill that I actually had. I was like, "Hey, I got $1," and he's like, "That's all you have?" I'm like, "That's all I got." And he was like, "Well, just give it to me then." And he basically just took my $1 and took off.
So he could get something from the Happy Menu.
And what's sad was that my coworker, he took everything. He gave up everything, and he was freaked out after the interview. And the cops are talking to both of us separately.
Where was that store at?
But he was like freaked. This was in the city of Montebello.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So and I was talking to the cops.
You thought it was Halloween, huh?
Yeah. And I was talking to the cops, and I wasn't fazed really. I wasn't shooken up. I wasn't trembling in any way. So much that I thought maybe they were even looking at me suspiciously, like, oh, I could have been in on it, because I was so unfazed by really the situation. And I don't know why that is, but I've been in environments like that, and I've been in really only 1 or 2 situations like that, but that was probably the craziest one. And yeah, and
that would lean into what you said with the films you chose. So, and that is the ultimate thing. And when you talk about the voice on the 17th floor, it's the unknown that's the scary. And I think that's the biggest fear when you do with the supernatural, the unknown. Yeah. And I guess it's the unknown, but when you're looking at the thriller slasher horror, then the known is your loss of life, and that would be the final step, whereas the other one would go deeper, obviously. Yeah. Well, excellent. Yep. Good movies, man.
Good movies, good talk, good horror movie talk. All right. Any parting words for this episode?
Yes, keep your closet door closed and don't hang any body parts over your bed at night, and you'll be okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, have a good day, sir. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, take care.